Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Just Open It, the YouTube series in which I open recently acquired toys. My name is Russ. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you're a fellow action figure collector or a fan of pop culture in general, please consider subscribing to my channel, Karaoke Fanboy TV. Between now and June, I will be opening a Masters of the Universe toy, counting down to the release of the new Masters of the Universe feature film. I've been buying specifically Masters of the Universe Origins ever since they came out, obviously, in 2020. And I have many of them still to open. So I'll be posting a few videos a week, again, counting down to that highly anticipated brand new He-Man movie. And today, I am opening the first Masters of the Universe Origins figure I found on card. I did find the Prince Adam Jet Sled 2-pack first. That was the very first Masters of the Universe Origins toy I found. Skeletor was the first single figure I found on card. And you could see that I settled for a package that was a little damaged, that bent corner, and then his head tilted up like that. This is how I found him way back in 2020. And he was the only figure on the peg at a Walmart. I decided to buy him because I wasn't sure if I'd ever see him again. Of course, within a few weeks, these figures were everywhere, so there was no concern about availability at that time. But I'm very excited to finally open, arguably, the most memorable villain of the 1980s. Is there any bad guy more iconic than Skeletor? Just the archetypal imagery that he represents, kind of this combination of like a Halloween skeleton, which from what we understand from multiple documentaries about the origins of Masters of the Universe is kind of his inspiration in a way, at least from the perspective of toy designer Mark Taylor. He's got that going for him, that kind of Halloween imagery. He's got that Grim Reaper vibe with a skull face under a hood, but then also there's this hulking physique in the bright blue skin in contrast to the purple armor. Purple, of course, being the color indicative of villainy across many franchises like Batman with the Joker suit and Spider-Man with the Green Goblin's purple tunic, right up until Skeletor and then even beyond. So there's a lot of tradition happening here, and then I dare say a little bit of innovation as well when it comes to Skeletor. I am going to rip him open right now and just share, simply to brag, that I had the immense pleasure of meeting the guy that voiced Skeletor in the Filmation cartoon of the 80s, Alan Oppenheimer. What a gentleman. I met him at a PowerCon, I think, in 2017 or something like that. He's certainly a staple of the convention scene. And what an absolute thrill it was to meet him. Of course, he voiced many characters in that series, including Man-at-Arms, but I think most popularly Skeletor. Other than He-Man himself, Skeletor is surely the face of the franchise when it comes to mainstream understanding of Masters of the Universe. And the fact that we're going to have an actor like Jared Leto play him in the upcoming film, regardless of what you feel about Jared Leto, that is a name people know. So I think we'll be hearing a lot more about Skeletor in the coming months, whether it's an analysis of his look, a critique of Leto's performance. I mean, here's a guy that once played Joker, and now he's playing Skeletor, so he's adding another iconic villain to his resume. This mini comic came with, I think, all of the Wave 1 figures of Masters of the Universe Origins. Toss that right there and get right into the evil Lord of Destruction. The fact that I haven't opened this character yet in like 6 years is pretty crazy. I did open Battle Armor Skeletor a while back, and you could find that video here on my channel, so I do have a Skeletor open and on the shelf. But this is OG. This is real deal, and just seeing these colors brings me back to my childhood and the first Skeletor I ever had. I'm pretty sure I played that figure to death. I think his legs fell off. So I have a replacement in my collection. And I also, in fact, have the legendary half-boot version of Skeletor, which means, if you're unaware of such things, that in the very first versions of Skeletor that were released by Mattel, the very first wave of Masters of the Universe action figures, I'm assuming in the interest of production and budget, only half of Skeletor's boot was painted on his leg, the front half specifically. So the back part of his calf here is the same blue as his skin tone. So that is now dubbed the half boot Skeletor on the collector's market. I do have one of those, in addition to another Skeletor that's a top Panther. I'm just looking at the shelves here. Kind of one of those rarities in my collection where I have two of the same figure. I try to keep this relatively minimal, the collections. I'm not into a bunch of variants, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But obviously when it comes to Origins, I'm collecting them all, at least the ones that represent the original characters I had as a kid, because it's so cool to see them with modern articulation, really sharp sculpts, cool paint decos, all the stuff that the modern action figure collector, the adult action figure collector, really appreciates. So here he is, sans weapons. Now let's see what he came with. I mean, should be the standard stuff here. Taped into the back of the plastic shell. If you're watching this video and you've been collecting Origins since they came out, you've had this figure opened forever. But for me, this is a real treat, because it represents everything that's best about Masters of the Universe. Of course, this is the, not titular villain, but the main bad guy. Again, after He-Man, if you put this character in front of a mainstream audience that wasn't really into Masters of the Universe as kids, or even more a more contemporary or modern audience, there's a chance they'll know who this is. They're not going to know Buzz-Off by name or Whiplash by name, but you're going to know Skeletor. The fact that the creators at Mattel just changed the one letter at the end of skeleton to Skeletor and created such an iconic name is so simple and then also so creative. And it kind of set the standard for Masters of the Universe names like Spikor, Ninjor. You know, you just add that "or" at the end, and suddenly you turn something that is like Ninja or Spikes into a character's name. I'm just looking here at the rest of my collection and seeing if there are any other examples. But that kind of pun-based element is so indicative of Masters of the Universe characters' names. Okay, so we have his famed Havoc staff. Goes right into the hand here. Very easy, solid grip. Love that. And then you have his half of the power sword. In the very original Masters of the Universe lore, He-Man's half and Skeletor's half could come together, hence the little peg holes there. And they would act as a key to Castle Grayskull. So whoever had both halves of the power sword could open the drawbridge to Castle Grayskull and unlock its secrets. And that concept kind of predates the fact that the power sword was Prince Adam's way of transforming into He-Man. There was a time, very briefly at the beginning of this mythology, where there was no Prince Adam at all. So you can add that sword to Skeletor's left hand, although it's open as a claw, by using that kind of handle loop there. So it is possible to display Skeletor with both weapons, even though one isn't in a traditional grip stance. And that said, it doesn't get any better than this. Like I said, it's just the classic Skeletor. Now his mouth is open. The original Skeletor's mouth was not this open, but after the Filmation series, Skeletor was known for that kind of cackling laugh. So I'm assuming that this is a nod to that. I mean, he's a gabber. he's a talker, Skeletor. So the jawbone, it's always working. And I just love the fact that we have something this expressive in a more contemporary incarnation of a classic villain. Again, in anticipation of the movie, this is a celebration of where Skeletor has been, but also a nod to where the character may be going, even beyond the release of this figure 6 years ago. And that is very exciting as a fan that would love to see this franchise live for a long time. Thank you for watching this video. Again, I really appreciate it. If you're a fan of this commentary, or if you have similar tastes as far as being a Masters of the Universe lifelong fan, think about following me on Instagram. My handle is AmazingAZ Comics, and I do self-publish a mini comic book series starring characters I've created. It's a colorful roster of heroes and villains that are essentially inspired by how much I loved these crazy characters as a kid. So, again, that's at AmazingAZComics.com. I'm sorry, at AmazingAZ Comics on Instagram. It's AmazingArizonaComics.com online if you want to go that deep. But a follow on Instagram would be much appreciated. The link is in the description of this video, and I'd love to see you there. In the meantime, tune in next time when I grab another unopened toy from the large pile here in my apartment, and I tell myself, you know what? Just open it!